Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Better Days Rain Addiction Recovery Podcast. I'm your host, Shawn Daniell. Today, I have a good friend of mine in the building, Dr. Shanna James from Andrea's project. And kind of give you a little bit of introduction, man. I have never seen somebody so busy in the community. Like, woman is everywhere. Everything I try to be a part of, she's already doing. So mad props for that. I want to give you this time to kind of tell your story and talk about your organization and what y'all do.
Yeah. So I am now the current executive director of Project. And so Andrea's project, our mission is to reduce alcohol, and now we're adding substance related harm. A lot of people think we're only about drunk driving or impaired driving, but it's actually more to that. And so, why it was founded. So, back in 2019, Andrea was a senior here at Randall High.
Okay.
It's a local school here in Amarillo, Texas. And it was Easter right before she was set to graduate. Her family was super excited. Her dad grew up here in Amarillo, so he back in the day was went to state in wrestling, and so he was still really connected with the high schools in the barrio here, helping with different nonprofits. He actually was on the board of the Guyon Sanders Resource Center,
Oh, okay.
which
Didn't
is
know that.
a homeless day center here. And so he had already been really involved with the community. Well, that day they were just hanging out for Easter like you do with your family. And that week before, she was surprised with a senior gift, and they gave her a Corvette. So, right? So, a new Corvette and a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah. What are you
I
going to want to do?
damage.
Right? You're going to,
Damage.
she
I'm doing damage.
she wanted to go show it off to her friends, and even when I'm telling like 4 or 5-year-olds in preschool, like if you get something new, like who do you want to tell and who do you want to show that to? And they're like, our friends. And exactly.
Everyone.
Yeah, really. I mean, I tell people I can't afford a Corvette and I'm a doctor. But so she asked her family, they were at the park cooking out, grilling out over at Thompson Park. So it's a park that's really well known here. And so she actually left her family. Family ended up going to Wonderland. She actually ended up staying in that same park. This park is very large. So if you're
Yeah.
not from here, you can be in the same park and
Oh,
not know who's in the park because it crosses a huge distance. We have
it really does.
an amusement park there. We have a zoo there, all sorts of things. And so she actually left to another area where groups of teens are. Well, now I have found out that that's a big hangout spot for teens to get drunk and high.
Oh man, I remember when I was a kid, it was a Juneteenth celebration. Go down there for Juneteenth. Yeah, and tore off the bone. Tore up, and then they had the volleyball court on the
Uh-huh.
opposite side of the park. That was hangout. That was the spot back in the
Yeah.
day.
So it still is. That's where a lot of kids go to hang out, and they'll, bring their substances and do a lot of dumb stuff.
Mhm.
And so she went down there, and her one friend that she really wanted to see, she had called, and she's like, "Hey, girl, no, my family wants me to stay." So she ended up hooking up with some other kids there at the park, and one of the young men that was there, that was also 17, had been drinking alcohol all day and smoking weed. And so, what does a young man that's 17 and sees a Corvette want to do?
Drive it.
Exactly. And
wanna drive it.
so, yeah, I mean, I think most anybody that likes cars at all, I think I would be scared to drive somebody else's car, but I think for a 17-year-old, like the risk is, definitely not there, not worried about it. Um, but choices were made. So that was the first choice. He
Right.
knew he'd been drinking all day. He knew he was high,
Yeah.
and he asked to drive a vehicle. Andrea allowed him. There was a
Right.
choice made there. Well, they actually went and ended up picking up another young man. So if you know about Corvettes, there's only 2 seats.
Yep.
Which I did not know that. I think I did know that, but I just never realized it until like I really sat down and I took this position. I was like, this makes a lot more sense. So now we have 3 people in a car that only has 2 seatbelts.
Right.
So a choice was made to allow somebody to not be in a seatbelt.
Right.
Well, if you're drunk and high and you're 17 and you're in a really fast car, you want to see how fast it goes. So this young man was pushing it to the limit. So over on the Dumas Highway, he was going up to speeds of over 110 miles per hour. Now you might want to know how I know that. is because then he made another choice, and he was on Snapchat. Why he was driving, why he was speeding, why he was drunk and high, and somebody didn't have a seatbelt on. So he is actually showing, and he actually shows the speedometer, shows him in and out of traffic, turns the camera around, pans to him, then pans to Andrea, and she does the I love you sign. And then it pans to the other guy in the vehicle, and then it cuts off. He posted that on Snapchat. What we found out after that is the man in the passenger seat, the young man in the passenger seat, starts yelling at the driver to slow down because they had the top down.
Yeah.
So he's yelling at him, we need to slow down, we need to slow down. And very soon after that, that's when he lost control. Andrea was thrown from the vehicle. Initially, she was actually hanging off the bridge over on the Dumas Highway close to Wonderland. And then the car comes after her. And so it then falls and lands on top of her.
I remember seeing that car at the Big Texas Recovery Rally, and never seen a car so mangled and destroyed. Like, didn't even look like a car.
Yeah.
Looked like I don't even know what, like it came from a junkyard or something, like been already smashed, and you know what I mean? Like it looked like a box.
Yeah. And so, I mean, there's little bits and pieces to let you know it was a Corvette.
Yeah.
If you actually looked inside the vehicle, the only parts that really are intact are those two seats. So those two young men walked away. The young man that was driving, he actually was Snapchatting from the ambulance. And that's how initially the family got word that something was wrong.
Wow.
So they actually had a family member. So they had gotten home from Wonderland, getting the other kids. She has two younger sisters, getting them bathed and ready for the evening. And they got a phone call from a family member in Dallas. What happened to Andrea? And they're like, what are you talking about? They're like, we're seeing stuff on Snapchat.
Yeah.
Something happened to her. Her friend that she initially called got a Snapchat that said R.I.P. Andrea. And so the family rushes to the hospitals. They're going between the both of them. They're trying to find out what's going on. They're like, well, we don't have your daughter here. We don't know what's going on. They're trying to contact law enforcement. They're not getting answers. One day I was having lunch with Andrea's mom, and it's taken her a while to be able to really speak on this. And she told me that they actually were in one of the waiting rooms, and the ER was full, and the young man that was driving, when the doors were opening, he was right there. So he was hearing
the whole conversation,
the family asking.
Yeah.
And didn't say anything.
Wow.
And so they finally.
So she didn't die on impact.
So initially she was thrown, and then when the car fell on her, that was it. That was it. And so she died at the scene.
Okay.
And so, but no one was giving them answers at first. So finally, the law enforcement made it up to the hospital, and they took him into a private family room, and they let him know what happened. As you can imagine, it was just immediate, that this is a dream. This is not happening. She was less than a month away from getting to graduate high school, a month away from going to college. She had dreams and aspirations of becoming a neurosurgeon. David grew up in the barrio and didn't have a lot. And so one of the things he did is he became an electrician and then made his own business. And, he actually became very well off for himself.
Right.
And so he was so excited to be able to give his children the life that he never had. And, now it's gone. And so David talks about, that he would just sit, and taking a bath or shower and just sit there and bawl and cry, and he actually felt like the presence of God coming to him and kind of instructing him to what do I do? What do I do with this? And so he reached out, like he wanted change. He's like, how did this teenager get access to the alcohol? Like, why is this allowed? Like, apparently this is a known thing. This is a known thing in law enforcement that kids are over there drinking and using and nothing's being done. So he had a lot of questions. Now, mind you, I told you in the beginning, he was very connected. So he's not very just connected in the business world. He was connected in the nonprofit world and other things. Like he was just very involved in the community and had a lot of connections. So he starts asking a lot of questions and he doesn't like the answers. Right. And so he actually reached out to Mothers Against Drunk Driving, and they were like, the closest we'll ever get to Amarillo is Lubbock. We potentially can have an office there. Right now it's vacant, and that's not a priority for us. And he's like, Lubbock is very far from Amarillo.
Right.
And then we have so many different communities that are north of Amarillo. So you're telling me that pretty much we don't matter, right?
It's kind of like that's the vibe in
Yeah.
Amarillo at times.
But that's how David is. David's
Yeah.
going to call a spade a spade. And
Yeah.
so he's like, you know what? That's fine. So a month after his daughter passed, he did his first community presentation. A month. Which anybody who's lost somebody,
Yeah.
going out and telling that story and sharing that experience with a group of complete strangers is not typically what happens. I usually actually don't even recommend it because just the pain and grief.
I don't think I would.
But then think about losing your child.
Yeah, I know.
Right? Like it's one thing like if I lost my mom or my dad or my grandparents or a friend, but losing a child just takes it to a whole different level. And there was actually a group here, Texan from Safe and Drug for Youth was here from Austin. And they work for policy changes and system level changes. And that's when they first met David. And they're like, this man is someone we have to partner with. Like this man has the capacity and willingness and unfortunately lived experience that he can help make change happen. And so they ended up partnering. And so he decided that he's going to make his own nonprofit. He is going to take this pain and this loss and this tragedy that should have never happened. Because, you know, drunk driving, impaired driving is one of the few things that truly is preventable, you know, when it comes to crimes or things like that. Like it truly can be preventable. And so he started this, but then he saw a bigger picture. So something that MAD and other places weren't doing, it's, yes, for some people like me, it's reminding, hey, it's easy not to drink and drive. It's that easy.
Right.
Like make a plan when you're sober.
Right.
But, there's a but. If somebody is in active addiction or has, you know, an alcohol abuse problem, it's not that easy, right? It's a higher level. And so they have to use to now have quote unquote be normal.
Some sort of balance. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
No,
like
I
they're
vibe
going to
with that
go
100%.
withdrawal symptoms. So they're going to get behind the mill. It's just a matter of time when they get caught or they hurt somebody or hurt themselves.
Right.
And so and then also a big component of what we do at Andrea's project is that youth access and youth prevention, right? So when it comes to alcohol, we are zero tolerance when it's for youth. We're actually not necessarily anti-alcohol. I'm never going to win that battle.
Right.
Right. I'm not going to win that battle, but it's about being smart and educating and giving people the facts. But we are when it comes to youth. And we don't believe that youth should have access. We don't think that these stores that are promoting and publicizing and the price and the placement that is geared to target our youth are not being held accountable. We have one convenience store that has, in the past 18 months, under a program we had with Tobacco Free Amarillo, which I'm also a part of, had over 220 citations and paid over $98,000 in fines. And now it's just a line of business.
Yeah.
They've just added it. Now, mind you, we didn't try to do, we gotcha, right?
Yeah,
like we
yeah,
didn't go
yeah.
out there and like, we actually sent a letter ahead of time. Hey, we are going to be doing these assessments. We're going to actually be sending working with student crime stoppers, sending minors in. So you need to educate your staff. You need to make sure you're checking IDs. You need to make sure you're doing these things.
Right. And they just didn't.
And so now, because of a new state law that's going to, and something we advocated for as well, and different agencies I'm involved with, within 2 years, everyone's going to have to scan up the ID.
Right.
Now, Toot and Totem and Pack-A-Sap has now implemented that, but I have been in the store when they've been able to override. But but mind you,
I've seen it.
It's been very interesting where that happens. So on the southwest side of town, I have not seen them override it. On the northeast side of town, I see them override it all the time.
Yeah.
So if someone's not familiar with Amarillo, what are the two differences there?
One's poverty, the other one's not.
Yeah.
And I agree with you on a lot of that. I think got to get the corner stores involved. You got to, Toot and Totem's one of those places, like they'll do it because it's a growing business, but the corner stores and things like that. But then you also have those people that go, I don't want my information put out to the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And when you scan the ID, you know what I'm saying? They get everything, right? Potentially. So how do you get around that part? Because there's a lot of people out there that buy booze, buy tobacco, but they don't want their information out there.
Yeah, and so,
so they go to the mom and pop store down the street or the vape shop or whatever,
and it's how do we continue to protect our youth, continue to have our own rights? And it's this balance. So I'm not pro everybody needs to be put in jail, right? I'm not pro you messed up, let's throw the book at you.
Well, thank God for that.
Yeah. So I kind of want to give a little background of how I ended up here.
Okay.
Because it's kind of an interesting journey, and I think it's why we actually are getting a lot of state, even national attention at Andrea's project, because we are kind of doing things different here. So I grew up in Tolia, Texas. So big old Tolia, Texas, which if you blink, you're going to miss it. We have one stoplight there. So, that's what you did as youth. Like, you know, we were actually a dry county. So I actually was talking to a younger officer and didn't know what that was. So a dry county is you can't sell alcohol.
Right.
We are now, Swisher County is now wet, but when I was growing up as a dry county, but you knew those houses. Yeah. You knew those houses that would stock up on alcohol, and the teens would go there and buy alcohol. Yeah. And it might be hard for you to realize this, but I was, a little nerdy.
No, not hard to realize. I'm so sorry.
I was a little, Now I dated a bad boy, so it kind of gave me some street cred there.
The doctor thing at the beginning of your name says, I see it.
But growing up, I did not drink when I was in high school. Right. Now, mind you, I was that person that was people's DD. Like they would call me Shanna, I'm drunk and a pastor. Right. Can you come get me? Right. I definitely was that girl. But I knew those places. Like, and if I knew those places, the police knew those places, everywhere knew those places. But, I'm not naive to like most teenagers of all backgrounds are going to do that. So I ended up going to West Texas A&M, getting my bachelor's at 19 and then getting in the Doctor of Pharmacy program and graduating at 23. And I ended up doing a residency. So I got my Doctor of Pharmacy, but I went on to do more training. So then I practiced in internal medicine for 10 years in a clinic. So more like a nurse practitioner or a physician assistant. So I saw patients in the clinic. I was under a collaborative practice agreement. So I managed their disease states. So one, I already had that going for me. Like I understand the pharmacy world. I understand the hospital. I understand clinic and just how the healthcare system work. And so one thing why I was there, people that at the time, this is pre-vapes, pre-cigarettes. I'm that old. Smoking. We would just tell somebody, quit smoking. Somebody's in the hospital. Hey, you're in the hospital again because of your smoking. But that as providers is all we would give them, right? Now, don't even start on the other addictions and stuff, but just something like that where, okay, I can understand a provider maybe not being an expert in methamphetamines or heroin, but they needed to be more of so I decided to become higher level trained. So I actually became a certified tobacco treatment specialist. Okay. So I did that really early on in my career because I knew it was more than just telling people to quit.
So let me ask you something. Mm-hmm. Are these helping me?
No.
Okay.
Those are actually in a way more difficult to get off of. So like I said, I was involved with this before e-cigarettes and vapes. So when e-cigarettes and vapes first came out, I had a lot of reservations because my true chronic smokers that smoked more than a pack per day could not vape. It would send them to the hospital. They would end up with pneumonia. They would have severe coughing fits that it would bruise their ribs. Right. And so I actually back in 2011, 2012, when these first hit the market as a way to get off cigarettes. And there was this whole campaign that it was a risk reduction. So they were risky, but they were less risky than cigarettes. I was not for it. I was like, there is something in them that makes them more harmful acutely. So in that moment.
Oh, when I was using them, I couldn't breathe. It was worse than cigarettes. I could not breathe. I would wake up in the middle of the night struggling. So now we're
10, 15 years later, we have deaths that have happened from somebody vaping one time. That's not going to happen with a cigarette. Right. So as these vapes have progressed, they've actually gotten worse in some of the other products that have now come out from them.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
So, we first had like the first generation that kind of looked like a cigarette. Then we had the big mods,
Yeah.
right? And do you remember the big puff contest?
Dude. Have you ever been to an AA meeting?
But they literally would like advertise these contests and like you would try to like, make different things. And so I've been there through that whole progression, and I have went toe to toe with pulmonologists, and I have went to toe with specialists in the ICU about these are not as dangerous. I'm like, yes, they are. There's something in them that's making them more dangerous. And then, they've have not been, under any type of research or control. And initially, big tobacco was absolutely against them. Right. So all the companies that own the cigarettes were fighting it. And then they found out how popular these are with youth and how cigarettes over the past 20 years have really declined in youth. Yeah. They ended up buying them all. Yeah. Follow the money, right? Yeah, follow the money. Makes sense. I'm one of those that I don't believe every conspiracy theory, but you know what? I'm going to listen and learn, and there's usually some truth to behind it. So when I went to get became a certified tobacco treatment specialist, part of it, they talked about the U.S. Surgeon General actually going after, big tobacco, and that's why they have to pay billions of dollars a year. Yeah. Because it was proven back in the 1940s and 50s that they hired scientists to make a better delivery device. So nicotine itself is actually a highly addictive substance. Oh, yeah. So if I was to ask you, which one do you think is the most addictive? Heroin, nicotine, or cocaine? Which one do you think is the most addictive?
I would say nicotine is the most addictive, right? I've been smoking cigarettes since 12, 13 years old. But it's the grabs that are different, right? Like, so I was a long time heroin addict, 10 years. Did it, I smoked it, shot it, did the whole thing, right? That is the more physically grabbing, right? You go through this phase, what they call gripping, and gripping sucks. Gripping sucks on so many levels, whereas, like today I haven't had a cigarette, right? I've been dipping today. Yeah. Because I'm trying to quit smoking cigarettes, but like my nerves have been kind of shot. That's why when you showed up, I was in the back cleaning, doing things, trying to stay busy. So my anxiety is a little high right now. You know what I mean? I'm a little anxious, but it's the one thing I haven't been able to fully put down.
And that's what I would get over and over. So I would get these people that were able to quit cocaine, meth, opioids, and nicotine's the one. But research actually backs that nicotine was. So back in the 40s and 50s, tobacco plants and plantations have always been a thing. So they actually then brought in scientists as part of their company, right? Because then it was like a plant agriculture more operation. And at this point, it's actually, okay, we're going to have labs. Yeah. They wanted them to create a better delivery device. Right. Okay. Which is so they knowingly, so this is the 40s and 50s. Okay. So back then, you would buy, and a lot of times people would roll their own cigarettes, but even they had some prepackaged one. So what they ended up doing was adding all those additional chemicals to the modern day cigarette to make it a better delivery device. Does that make sense? Yeah. Right? So they're adding things that they know cause a disease. They know things that if people took on their own were poisons, right? Arsenic. They know that if somebody took arsenic, that'll kill them, but they're adding it to that cigarette to make it a better delivery device. So that was something they were able to prove in the early 90s, that the tobacco industry from the very top knowingly did this, and knowingly it was going to hurt people and harm people, and that they would have these outside businesses come in and say that cigarettes were safe. So you're kind of my age, but before our time, they actually had commercials and posters where doctors say, I recommend this brand.
Oh yeah, I remember.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah, but like
the camel commercials, Winston's, like Marlboro Man, Marlboro Man.
Yeah, and then you would get all the free stuff. Yeah. So again, the things that have changed, and the kids of this generation, like even young adults, less than 30, they have no recollection or no knowledge of that, because that's kind of what's happening again. Like Joe Camel, right? Yeah. So Joe Camel was to target kids. That's why he ended up having to get X. That's why they then banned commercials for cigarettes.
Okay.
Do you realize that there's no commercials for cigarettes
I
anymore?
haven't really paid attention much to it.
Yeah, so
but-
that was actually something they banned. So there's not commercials for cigarettes anymore.
So why do they do the no cigarettes, but you still get the Copenhagen and the dip commercials? They don't do those either anymore? Okay, I didn't know they
You're
cut those
still
out.
thinking of the past.
Okay, yeah, I mean,
because we have everything where we can skip commercials, but that's actually been banned for a really long time. And so we know all of this, and because of those bans, that's part of the no commercials and not getting the free products like the jackets and all the things that help reduce kid usage and starting as kids. So
can I ask you a question? Why don't they do the same thing with alcohol?
Well, we'll get to that in just a minute. They got some great lobbyists, let's just say that. Because they were able to prove at the very top that this started at the top, that they knowingly were putting things that were going to kill people, allowed them to make more legislation to restrict them targeting people with these cigarettes and products is the big things with alcohol, right? Alcohol didn't knowingly add poison. So they were able to get away, or they're still able to get away.
But aren't there additives in alcohol that...
They are, but they don't have the research to show that the very top knowingly and approved to put in things that were going to be deadly, like they did with cigarettes.
Okay.
Right? Okay. Like they had that proof they had. So the man that did my training, because I actually went to the Mayo Clinic. So if you don't know the Mayo Clinic's like world leader when it comes to a lot of things in healthcare. Okay. And when it comes to nicotine and tobacco dependence, they are the world leader. Like people from Saudi Arabia come to train there. Gotcha. And the man that put all that together, the man that was like the lead expert in these trials, was the man who taught me. I was the very less training group that he taught. Was really, really cool. So, it just allowed me to see something different and focus on something different in healthcare. So I was treating all the different things, but I was understanding. But then as these vapes came along, so like I said, initially the tobacco industry fought them, but then they found out, wow, we're losing into under age 25. Like our uptake and our other clients are dying. Right. So they went in to buy these vapes, and they have invested a lot of money. So again, it's already been outlawed to do commercials. So how do you think they got around it to target youth? So what do a lot of kids watch now? Do kids actually like watch cartoons? Like what do they watch? What is your channel on?
Man, I stream everything. So
but I know, but what is this podcast on?
Oh, YouTube.
So a lot of kids just go on YouTube. Yeah. Right? Like a lot of kids just go on YouTube and then like watch other kids or even adults play with toys. Like that is a thing right now.
Well, I mean, yeah, you got to look at like Jake Paul and his fortune that he built off doing stupid stuff.
But they have targeted commercials in there. Yeah. But it looks like it's not a commercial. Yeah. So we have that on TikTok. We have it on YouTube. And they were actually getting different influencers that are going in and using pouches and using these vapes, and it looked like somebody that they would follow, and it's happening in like a bedroom, but it's actually under production. Yeah. And you actually could follow the money that this is happening. So even though it's outlawed for them to do commercials, the pouches, the vapes, they were doing commercials, and it wasn't targeted. It wasn't in my algorithm. Yeah.
I mean, I can sit there and tell you, like when I was on the street, we used vapes for smoking meth, smoking heroin. Like you just throw it in there and that coil heats it up real nice and pretty,
So we actually brought it to Amarillo to train the officers on that. So that was something I was a part of, to bring the officers that these vapes can be very dangerous, and this is why. Yeah. And if you're handling somebody's vape, it could have other substances. And so unfortunately I was that person. Well, I mean,
and I always tell people, because they're like, oh, you can't take these apart, or you can't put stuff in these. Yeah. And I always tell people to never, ever underestimate the ingenuity of a tweaker. Like we can come up with some stuff, you know what I'm saying? Give us a few hours on a really good skits and we'll make it happen.
That, and then if you want to know if a drug can be abused, put it on the formulary in prison and you're going to find out real quick. Oh, yeah. Right? Yeah. If it's something that can be combined with something, like I swear they have some of the best chemists in there.
So that's another place where you're very good at working with what you got.
But that's one of the things I found really quickly is I didn't just want to sit at these tables with people that had the degrees and had the research. I wanted to work with people with a life experience because that's going to give me a better understanding to where that research and where we need to go. Yeah. So I actually would sit down with the people who are vaping or using, and I actually would take that back to like, okay, these are the things we need to research with the vapes. Is it crossing the blood-brain barrier? Is it doing these things based on the feedback that I'm getting from the people that are doing it? And one of the things that they were modifying is they wanted it hotter because they missed the burn in the back of their throat from a cigarette.
Yeah. Yep, absolutely.
And that was not on anybody's radar naturally. I brought that up here in Little Amarillo, Texas.
Well, it's like the bigger the hit, the bigger the rush.
Yeah.
You know?
So that's where, coming into why it started out with 1,000 chemicals and now a cigarette has up to 7,000 chemicals is because it gets that hit harder and faster.
Right.
So when I'm telling that to somebody that uses, that speaks to them.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that a lot of people tell me that come to my classes. They're like, she speaks a language we get.
Yeah.
Mind you, I did not get this knowledge in my doctorate program. Right. I had to learn it from people. How do I speak their language where they can understand what's happening to them and how they've been targeted? Now, mind you, they did that with the cigarettes, but the vapes, they continued to make those better. And so the Views and the Juul, right? The Juul was a real big thing because it looked like an electronic device. Are you familiar with the Juuls?
I've kind of drifted away from messing with vapes.
That was rechargeable and it was a USB. So you would just plug it in and it looked like a long USB.
Yeah.
Right? So that's like really, if you didn't know, you just thought your kid had a thing. We were freaking out because in those, there was up to 40 to 50 cigarettes. So 2 and 2.5 packs and 1 disposable.
That makes sense.
We were freaking out, right? Like that's so much.
Yeah, you see some of those are like 10,000 hits or 20,000 hits.
Yeah. Well, back then it was just that, and we freaked out, right? That was less than 5 years ago. Now get to the bars. So the bars are the 10,000, 20,000. We're actually up to 50,000. So how many packs of cigarettes or how many cigarettes do you think are one disposable now?
A lot, but I can tell you, I can still go through one of them disposables in about a day and a half.
I know. So how many?
So it's like taking a whole pack in one hit almost. I would think probably half to a whole pack every time you hit it. Okay,
so the Views and Juul were really popular like less than 5 years ago. So that was 2.5. So how many packs do you think we're up to now? Just
I have no
throw
idea.
Out a number.
Man, in each one, I don't know, 10.
We're up to 50.
50?
1,000 cigarettes.
That's crazy.
And like some of the cheapest ones is about just 30, 35. So that's crazy, right? Because that's where our kids are starting. Now, it's one thing with you starting there, like it's not good for you, right? Like you do not need 1,000 cigarettes in a day. You don't need 1,000 cigarettes in a week.
I'm trying to like not smoke 1,000 cigarettes ever.
Yeah, right? And so
it's tough.
But now that is the intro for kids.
Yeah.
So we just got our data back from last year. So one of the things we do is we do an assessment of children in Amarillo ISD from 6th, 8th, 9th, and 12th. And we have them fill out a survey. So it's preventative and risk factors. And so the average age of kids that are smoking or vaping is 12. Alcohol is 12.7 years old. And so that's what they're starting at though, right? They're not starting with a cigarette. They're not starting with a Views or Juul.
They're going straight to they're
starting with these bars because these bars taste good and they smell good, right? Like I know, I'm that person. Right. Like some people are like, oh my gosh, it's the vape lady. Like I'm going to have to hide my vape. I'm not really that person. But I've been around it. Like it does. I'm like, oh my gosh, what does that smell? It smells so good.
Yeah.
But I now have 14-year-olds that are consistently vaping at least 2 packs per day. And I have 17 years and older vaping at least 7 packs per day. That is going to do something to the body. Like one, if you're doing this under the age of 24, so alcohol, THC, nicotine, it affects that brain development.
Right.
Significantly, right? And so we know that there's a higher chance that they are going to continue and to be full-on addicts from those substances, if it's alcohol or whatever.
Fall into some sort of disorder after
or
that. Or
they're going to have, and they're going to increase to go to other types of substances, right? If the earlier that they start, the higher likelihood it is, and it's harder for them to get off. But these levels, nicotine itself is actually really safe. Like if you use like the patch or the gum, Like, that's not causing disease. Like, that's not causing lung or cancer or heart problems.
Give me the gum.
It's all
Yeah.
the other chemicals that they add
Yeah.
into it. So like these pouches, that is actually not synthetic. It's actually made from part of the plant, but like the stems, it's really weird. And then they modify it so it's kind of like natural and synthetic.
Yeah.
But it's a lot more concentrated. So I've actually had more trouble with people getting off of that than cigarettes. The same with the vapes though.
Yeah.
Right? Because like if you're going through even one disposable in a week, that's 5 to 7 packs per day equivalent. So really a cigarette is about 1 milligram. So if I'm giving you that equivalent milligrams,
Right.
so 1,000 milligrams is 1,000 cigarettes. So if I'm giving you a replacement therapy with a patch, do you know what milligrams they come in?
I have no idea.
21, 14, and 7. So how many patches am I going to have to give you to replace that same amount?
No idea.
50.
A lot.
Like I would have to give you like 50, like 40 to 50 patches to be able to replace that same amount to give you enough to help with some of like the withdrawal and things. But that's where our kids are starting.
Yeah.
Now with THC, right? So we're thinking back to the marijuana and marijuana plants. So back in like the 60s, it was like less than 10% THC.
Yeah.
So like a joint, right?
Yep.
Then because of agriculture and crossbreeding and understanding it more, maybe really good, like 20%.
It's way more potent than
So
that.
what can we get it up to now?
Oh, I think, what was it? Back in the early 2000s, I think in California, they were doing it like 30 something. But I've even heard Colorado was even boosted it up from there. So I'm not really sure.
So I'm just talking about
I don't know the numbers
synthetic.
today.
So what do you think synthetically wise though?
It's synthetic. I mean, I didn't really mess with the synthetic weed too much. Like real weed, it gets into like some of that hydroponic weed.
But
like the
that's-
hydroponic
yeah.
stuff, it's a one hitter quitter.
Yeah.
I'm done after one
Well,
shot.
I'm talking like more, this was like the average Joe, everybody could afford it. Like
Yeah.
you could, there's more that you could pay better for better quality.
Right.
But like the less than 10% and less 20%, like that was just what the average Joe was using.
Right.
So when I'm talking to parents that, grew up and maybe tried these substances, they probably weren't getting the 30+% because they weren't kind of spending that money when they were teenagers.
No.
But with synthetic, what do you think we're up to now? What percent?
I can only imagine. I know with like the fentanyl, it's what,
100%.
100%.
So we're up to 100%.
I bet.
So even thinking of that, right? Like you said, hit it one time, like that's
Yeah.
all you need, the 30%.
Yeah.
Now we're giving them 100%.
Yeah.
And that is where our kids potentially can start at. So I've known people who've used marijuana their whole life and now are using the synthetic, especially what we have here in Texas is actually different than what they have in Colorado and the places
So when you
that's
say
legal.
synthetic, you're talking like the K2?
So synthetic, there's actually 50 different strands.
Right.
So the K2's been outlawed, but we had, initially it was Delta 8, Delta 9, and that's kind of like now fallen off. We have THCA, THCE, THC Delta. Like there's so many different strands, and a lot of these products are combining. So you're not just getting one, you're getting multiple.
Gotcha.
But what we have here in Texas, it was from hemp, but how they got it was weight based.
Okay.
So it was supposed to be, based on like the hemp plant itself, it couldn't be more than 0.03, right?
No, that's legal though. That's
Yeah.
legal here in Texas.
Yeah, right. But
Which is stronger than weed.
What's not
But weed's
really
illegal and the other one's not.
I'll
right?
explain why it is.
Okay.
It's really not. But how they wrote the law, they didn't specify it to the plant. It's what the substance is.
Okay.
So that's why if you put it in a Stanley cup, you now get to use that weight of the Stanley cup. And that now can be from 0.03.
Okay.
So it's not just from coming from the plant, it's all the other ingredients as well. So I'm baking a cake, it's the total weight of the cake, not the initial
Makes
amount. Sense. So a lot of people are like, well, they should have specified a specific milligram instead of a percentage, or they should have specified the plant. But this initially, when it went through went through the agriculture house. It was supposed to be for rope, not dope. But that's where that loophole is. So the crap we have here is significantly worse than actually the legal stuff that's being sold in Colorado. Like the stuff being sold here, a lot of it you can't buy in the States. It's legalized. So, but we're not monitoring this. But I told you I was So I was actually a professor for 10 years.
I was about to say, you make me feel like I need to go back to school.
No. But see,
Stay in school, dude.
This is why I just have a lot of different experience of why it's led me up to this role to put me in such an advantage to maybe make change. So I have contacts of I help train 1,500 plus students that I know personally by name, keep up with, that are across the nation. So I'm able to kind of keep up and see trends that maybe not other people can't, because we're not tracking these things.
Gotcha.
Just like opioid overdoses, we're not tracking those, right? Like, we don't have a good system in the state of Texas, but I'm getting those contacts across the state. And what we're actually seeing is the stuff we're selling in Texas, we're actually having more cannabinoid-induced psychosis than other states that is truly legalized because of the products we're selling here.
Right.
And I'm talking about, we're ending up people that are ending up in a psych unit that have used marijuana their whole life, but now they're using something, and this is not marijuana base. This is synthetic base. It's made in a lab.
Right.
And they take it, and these people are not necessarily that well trained, that are making these products, and then they're putting them in things. And then, one serving is supposed to be 1/10 of this gummy. Well, who's reading the packaging? I don't know about you. I'm going to see a gummy. I'm going to eat the whole gummy. And so we're, right? Who's going to eat 1/10 of a gummy? Like, make it that amount. But we're
so you do understand the addict mind.
But I'm just saying, when it comes to sweets, I do. That's how you can make it relevant to me. But like here in Amarillo, Texas, we're having people that have been using marijuana end up with psychosis. So they're delusional, seeing things, hearing things, and there's no other substance in their system.
Yeah.
It's that. But we're also having a lot of youth. I have personally met with 6 youth here in Amarillo, Texas, that went through psychosis after using something that was bought at these vape stores. So either a vape or an edible. And that wasn't true 5-10 years ago.
Right.
Like, even if a kid got a hold of a joint, maybe even an edible, like, that wasn't happening. And now that's a daily occurrence. And the number of seizures we're having in school has been attributed to the stuff that's been sold in these vape stores.
Yeah.
So how familiar are you with Kratom?
So Kratom, I don't really know a lot, but I do want to touch on this vape store thing real quick. Because this is something I stay conflicted with too, right? Because I have a couple friends that own a chain that goes like from here to Odessa. I think they got one in Midland now. But so they own bong shops, head shops, right? And it's got the vape store attached to it, right? It's kind of hard for me to understand why we feed people these things and then expect them like they're going to use it in a manner, like not abuse. Like, so I guess what I'm trying to say is, like, why are we setting people up for failure, and why are we allowing it?
So that's where Andrea's project is. I love to do one-on-ones. I love to do classes. I had a victim impact panel last night. So to explain what that is we actually have offenders that got a DUI or DWI or minor in possessions or minor intoxication are required to come to our class, and they think we're going to do this, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh my gosh, I'm going to meet people that are victims of this, and they are going to. So, they come in, and we do have our victim share. So right now, most of my victim impact panel are actually parents that lost children. And it may be a child that was under 18, or it may have been an adult child. A child is always a child. Very powerful. But then I make them share their story. And a lot of times it's the first time they've ever shared.
Yeah.
The day of their arrest. They've never shared with anybody.
No.
Everything that went down. And it's so important to me that we have them do that, because a lot of them are like, I really don't want to share. I really don't want to share. And then they start sharing.
Well, if you ever need somebody to go in there, I'm always available to talk about stuff like that.
But you know what it is? But then they see and they start listening to others, and they're like, oh my gosh, that person is telling my story, right?
Absolutely.
My embarrassment, my humiliation, my grief, I was self-medicate. Like, these all start to come out. Like, I lost my girlfriend had a miscarriage, and I didn't know how to deal with it. So I started drinking, right? And then my mom died. and then I was just drinking every day.
Yeah.
Like finally these things are coming out for the first time ever. Like they've never done a group type thing.
Yeah.
And this is a conversation you and I have had.
Yeah.
Peer to peer is the most effective. Yes, I have a doctor to my name, but I can't get to somebody like another peer can that has lived it, breathed it, dealt with it.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
So I try to open them up, and so they can have that peer experience, and then I kind of joke at the end, this is your intro to peer.
I mean, I actually went to prison to avoid talking to somebody like you. Like I signed because I was like, nope, I don't want to go to a mental health hospital. Like, no, I'm good. I don't want anybody in my head, especially somebody who's not going to understand where I'm coming from, or because I think like we always kind of want to take things personal.
Yes.
Whether you're the victim or the one doing it, right? But it's not a personal attack. It's just everybody's.
And I've had that. Like I myself have not suffered with addiction. I have had people very close to me, so I've been that family and friend. But I myself suffer from a mental illness, and I have from a very young age. And so I do understand that aspect of it. And so that's kind of where I try to bring, and even how I talk to the kids or in my victim impact panel. Like there's certain things I've used today, probably they're higher level topics, but then, I'll also kind of try to bring it down and use things that are more relevant to them. But part of it, we bring that up is part of it is they've been targeted with our culture to place these products, price these products, promote these products.
Yeah.
And it's the industry that's the problem.
Right.
And so the problem is a lot of the funding, they want to do the direct. Like, I want to see how many people you get off the streets. I want to see how many people you get into recovery. You're going to make the least amount of change there. My thing is I want to make system level changes. I want to go after these manufacturers that are making these products. So I don't even necessarily blame the vape shop owners.
Right.
Because they were selling the first gen now to the sixth gen.
Well, right. And like I said, I stay kind of conflicted with them on certain
Does
things,
that make
right?
sense?
Because I get why they do it.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, when you can have a store where you can buy things wholesale and mark it up 1,000% and sell it retail for, 10 times as much as you got it for, I get it. Right. I get that part. Everybody wants to live a good life. But then when you see how it kind of starts opening up doors for other things.
But when I actually have conversations with a lot of these, they don't even realize how severe it is, right? Because it's not. So all the information out there, all the education is still back on the views and the Joel.
Yeah.
So the CDC, the Department of State and Health Services, the information and stuff they're putting out there, it's 3 to 5 years old. They're not. And so I'm going to these national conferences and I'm like having to go up there and I'm like, you need to update your slide. That's actually wrong.
So have you ever had a conversation about the bolo? The bolo?
What's the bolo?
Okay, so the bolo is what you smoke meth out of.
Okay. Yeah,
and you can find it in just about every vape shop, every head shop, every corner store, right? Why do we still sell the bolo, knowing what the bolo is used for? It only has one use. They say it's an incense burner, but like that's an absolute lie. You know what I mean? Like,
but that's where it's coming to a higher level. And I'm going to tell you, the average Joe Snow that is the ones making these decisions doesn't have people like you at the table to then inform them.
Are you serious?
Yeah. And so you have to think like even the people that are making these decisions are even so sometimes even out of touch with my life. And I'm a doctor. I'm very well educated. I was a professor. But like their level of life experience and who they've been around is just so different. And that's why it's so important to me that my seat is full of such diverse people. Like I will have a meeting with a police chief and then that evening I'm having dinner with somebody who's in active addiction.
Right.
Right.
And I've seen that about you.
Yeah. And so, like I will be there meeting the governor, but then I know I met with somebody who is facing felony charges. Like to me, it's so important to have using my title and using my privilege to then bring people along because they're going to be able to speak to it to a level that I can't. No, I learn a lot. Like, you know what, when even I was practicing, I knew some of my patients that were selling their drugs because they needed it to survive.
Right.
So I would get information on them. Okay, so when I'm working the pharmacy, what are things that I need to watch for that this person is trying to sell their pills versus use them, because I want to then offer more social services so they're not going hungry.
Right.
So my patients that were actively selling their stuff, I then found out, and then I got them into other programs so they weren't going hungry. They had their electric bill paid for. And you know what? They actually wanted to take those meds because they were in severe pain, but they were having to do that to survive. So I was building those relationships with people instead of kicking them out and saying, you messed up, you effed up, you broke the law.
Yeah.
So I'm no longer going to give you this medicine. I wanted to learn from them and them to be open and honest with me so we could actually get to the root of the problem. But what happens is people have to lie. They lie, cheat, and steal to survive, and then we punish them because the system has failed them.
Right.
So,
and I talk about this a lot, like, because I think in society we've kind of come to this point, right, where we try to be so productive that we're non-productive, right, and we're creating monsters on a daily basis, and the typical non-player character, we call them non-player characters, right, that haven't lived in that life. Right, so I was a long-time heroin addict. I was homeless for a long time. We used to buy street antibiotics. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? For people who would get abscess and things like that, or get real sick, we'd have to street-level antibiotics. You couldn't even afford to go into a pharmacy because they knew you were a heroin addict. They're not going to give it to you. You know, so but we put people in these lose-lose situations. Mm-hmm. Right, to where it's no matter what, you're going to lose. Just what manner do you want to lose in? You know, and for me as an addict, as a felon, you know, looked at in that light, and I know where my mentality used to be. It's not so much there anymore, but I can lie and roll the dice. And maybe I get away with it or I get what I need. But if I tell the truth, it's not going to go my way no matter what. You know,
so that's just something that's been about me, you know, like if you're a believer or what, like I just have something where I'm able to reach people other people aren't. Yeah. But I always did something different. I was always vulnerable about myself. And that was something I was trained against, right? Like when I went into an appointment with a patient, it was supposed to be all about the patient. And it was about these boundaries and you should not cross it. But I found for certain people, I had to open up and show some of my vulnerabilities and where I struggled with for them to feel comfortable enough to be open with me. And that's how like peer, this was like before peer to peer was like a thing. And so when I did that, I was able to reach people that other people weren't.
Right.
And so that was something that I trained my students in. But you know, I had students one time, you know, that went and saw a patient and, mind you, it let me know that they didn't read their chart, but they the person was like, okay, well, do you like use any substances that are bad for you? Do you use anything that's harmful? Like, they're like, oh yeah, I use ice. So the student told them, like, oh, that can be bad for your teeth. Well, they come out and talk to me and they're presenting on the patient and they really thought ice was like water ice.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, so what did you tell them? How did you counsel them? I'm like, okay, what else did you tell them? They're like, well, you know, I mean, it's not the worst thing. And I'm like, look, and I'm like, I'm putting it together. But they had just been so sheltered. And I'm like, okay, so we need to add a training. We need to do a discussion on different street drug names because they had just been so sheltered.
Yeah.
They had no idea that when somebody referenced that. And so I take that into perspective is like when I'm working with different people, they're not going to have that knowledge, right? So they go into a vape store and they see the incense. They're going to just think it's for incense. They're going to have no idea because they've never talked to somebody that they know of.
Right.
Right. That they know of that has used meth, because a lot of times when we have had past that negatively, we hide it. You know, once we make it out of it, a lot of people don't want to talk about their past addiction or mental illness. Like they hide it. It's a hidden thing. Yeah. And so until more and more people actually say and bring that up, that it's amongst more of us and more people have came out of it so that people can get more knowledgeable, some of that's just not going to be knowledge to know there needs to be change. So like when I'm talking about this and I'm talking to the legislature, they have no idea because they've never even stepped foot in a vape store. Right.
That's crazy.
And so they have in here, you know, they have packages that are the exact same ripoff of Doritos. Like it's exactly like Doritos or Hot Cheetos or Nerds. Exactly. But like if you've never been in one, you
Yeah.
have no idea that's happening.
Yeah.
But I've had teens tell me that they've bought it and gave it to another teen because they thought it was going to be funny, not realizing that since they gave them that dose, that could have been deadly. But Kratom, I'll go to the different stores and I'll ask, the people working there. And one of them told me, oh, I think it's like an alternative to weed. And I'm like, so finally at that point, I actually identify myself and I'm like, oh my gosh, no, it's not. Like it works on opioid receptors. And so the problem is though Narcan doesn't work on it. So I know of several deaths here in Amarillo that have happened due to Kratom.
Right.
And now we have a more concentrated version, the 7-hydroxy. Now, if I had somebody that was using straight heroin and they're trying to get off of that with that, then yeah, I probably would say Kratom's probably safer. But a teenager to start there,
Yeah.
right? And that's the problem. And then, so, I give props to the vape stores that ensure that their employees are knowledgeable.
Got you.
Because not every vape store is like that.
No.
Some of the vape stores, they have no idea what those products are, and they're just trying to make a sale. So I would go into certain vape stores, and they'll be like, girl, if you don't know what that is, you need to walk away. Like, I can tell you some fun things if you want to have a good time, but if you don't know what this is, this can be deadly and this can be harmful.
Right.
But for some people, this is like really helpful because they're having to take a prescription pain medicine or so. So I give props to those vape stores, but I'm going to tell you the majority aren't that way. So I recently did a community assessment. I went to a random 19 vape stores, so randomly selected. I was working with a university, University of North Texas, and we were working with 8 different cities in the state, and we all did these assessments the same week. So after September 1st, where some of the laws went into place. So how many of those do you think were following the law?
None.
Some were.
Really?
Yeah.
That's surprising.
Now, some of it was like, what does the law actually mean?
So it's ish. So it's an ish thing.
Some of them, like, that was very obvious. This is now illegal. 70%. So 70% were not. So 30% were though.
Okay.
I was like, okay, that was more. Now, some of the ones that randomly came up though didn't get some of the ones in town that I knew were breaking the law.
Yeah.
So THC vapes are now illegal in the state of Texas.
Right.
And then all of our non-USA based vapes are also illegal. Because one of the things is actually the flavoring component is actually one of the most dangerous components in these vapes that are sending people to the hospital. But all the concentrates are still, and then some of the concentrates that have already been deemed illegal, I was able to convince them to show me more products, and they would bring it under that was not displayed, or they would bring it from the back. So they knew it was something I shouldn't have out there. And then one of the things that you're trying to get around is trying to do these syringe based, like where you take the syringe and then put it in the cartridge. And so you're making your own vape. So again, that's actually illegal. So again, some of them are trying to do around it, but, but some of these products, they knowingly are selling it to kids because there's no age limit.
Yeah.
And that I do have a problem with, Shawn. Like you know what? It's like one thing to be in the industry, but you still can have standards.
So, okay, so I get the whole youth thing, but so me, I came out of addiction, well, like really active addiction. I think I was like 38, 37. And so being normal, right? Living a normal life. I've been on drugs since I was roughly 5th grade, right? I was trying everything for that first time, right? Trying to put everything down and deal with life for the very first time. So a lot of things were new to me, right? Even being an adult was very new to me. Still is very new to me. So it's like, how do you get people to treat an adult the same way you would a youth? Right? Because I think typically we look at grown men and we say, well, he's a grown ass man. He can handle himself. Right? And it just, everybody's not at that level.
Yeah.
Right? And so how do you bring that up to people in a way to where they become empathetic, you know what I'm saying, and start caring about some of these people who have been in this for 20, 30 years and just legitimately don't know how to live a normal life.
And so I think that,
because I think I got very lucky, to be honest with you. I met some really cool people, a mutual friend of ours, she reached out and kind of saved my life, put me on 24-hour life watch and for 3 months and really nursed me back to health and kind of put me on my path. But not everybody gets that, right? So how do you, and I understand that like my situation isn't the same situation everybody gets, right? I've been allowed a space to grow in where a lot of people don't get that space. How do you present that to somebody to say, we need you to care in this way? Because not everybody gets these chances. And we typically think that it's, you know what I mean? Like it's up to them, but a lot of it's up to the community. Like, and recognizing like we need to provide a space for these people to grow in, and we need to give them the proper amount of time. Cause like I look at short-term treatment as a complete waste of time. Like I'm like short-term 30-day treatment. You're just, that's like, to me, it's like the predatory side of recovery, to be honest with you. It's like, let's just take advantage of them for 30 days, get their money, get their insurance, and then boot them back out. Right. It took me years to start rebuilding, to actually start where I could collect my own thoughts. My withdrawal period, now granted, like I had liver failure and I caught Crohn's disease when I put down heroin. Like everything came off and it was a lot of medical problems. But my withdrawal symptoms drifted over about a year, physical. And I couldn't work, I couldn't walk. You know what I mean? Like I said, I was on 24-hour watch for almost 3 months, where somebody had to sit next to my bed to make sure I was still alive. And I remember times where I would sit there and just go, man, I got sober for what? So I could sit here and lay here and be miserable and have people yell at me and tell me about all the things that I'm not doing when I'm barely hanging on. How do you get people to realize that?
So people are driven by different things. So me being a professor, this is something I realized in just kind of understanding and watching. Some people are more data driven. Right. That's just how they are. They're we have type A people. We have people that, I need the facts. I don't want your story. I don't want your emotion. And then storytelling, right? Storytelling is, for most people, I think the most effective. But a lot of times these people that you're looking at that may be the decision makers are not compelled by your sob story.
Right.
Is what they kind of call it. And so that's something I think that puts me in a different perspective, is I'm able to do both. So I'm able to
do like a comparison.
Well, some of it is like I'm able to then use the research. Like let's talk about evidence-based medicine. So what does the data show? What does the research show? I can pull those numbers. I can pull those stats. I can show where the research shows that this is more beneficial to do it this way.
Right.
But some people, that, right, for you would hate that.
Right.
If I sat here and I went over all the research and literature and talked about how they did these study analysis and how they recruited, and if it was, placebo based or was it retrospect, like you would be asleep.
Yeah.
Right. So then having stories, but the more personal the story is, the more impactful. So me being able to sit with somebody and me being able to tell part of your story, right? I'm never going to tell it as well as you did, but I can use that when I'm at the table to be more compelling. And so sometimes I'm using my doctor title. Sometimes I have friends with this lived experience, or myself, when I'm a huge advocate with mental illness. Like I myself have this lived experience as a patient, as a family member, and as a provider. So I'm able to use this thing where it gets me in rooms that other people can't, but then I can also keep the attention while I'm there.
Right.
So do I need to go more this way? And so that's where the things I think have missed, that the people have kind of been in this wheelhouse, is it's either all these prevention specialists, and they're all focused on prevention, but as soon as somebody has used, they don't know what to do.
Right.
So that's why I created the Panhandle Prevention and Intervention Coalition, is we have a lot of prevention specialists. Okay, so reading, early education, 2-family homes. These are all things that are going to be protective. Even if somebody has adverse childhood trauma, what are those protective factors that can come in? But then you start telling them the signs and symptoms, and they're like, oh my gosh, I think my 5th grader's using. They don't know where to go.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you. And they give them my number, right? And this was not even, I was, at public health at the time, but people were like, I have no idea. And some of it would be in the same organization. I'm like, your sister organization, like you're literally the person who needs to cross your, like, there's just not that my brain, I guess, works. And so I think as a community, we need a better understanding that prevention and when to intervene. And then people are going to see that it touches them closer than they think. We have a mutual person we care about that recently got hit by a semi. And, it was on the news that, somebody had got hit by a semi. Well, a lot of people knew, I knew a lot of people out in that community. So people that were experiencing homelessness. So I went out and I put that person's street name out there to just kind of help calm people down. Like, it's not your loved one.
No.
It's not so-and-so. Like, just kind of like, hey, this is what's happening. Families there, like, this is what's going on. I only put a first street name and that was it. And I had over a dozen people reach out worried it was a family or friend that they knew.
Yeah.
And I had no idea that they were that close to somebody experiencing homelessness, because it's something we don't share. It's something we hide. We don't talk about. And I'm like, oh my gosh, did you know if you shared the story with others, like, people are going to have a different perception because of who you are. Right? Like, this can happen to anybody's family or friends. Like, a lot of people are just one paycheck away. And so I put my business, I don't put everything out there, but I put some of the things I do out there because I know it then allows people to know I'm a safe space.
Right.
But I felt horrible because I didn't check social media for the rest of the day. And those people for hours were worried it was their loved one.
Yeah.
And so I went back and apologized, and I put the person's picture. I'm like, hey, it's this person. Like, it's not like, it's not any of the loved ones that anybody has reached out to me, and I apologize. But I just think sometimes the closer somebody is to someone too, and it's a personal experience, they are more likely to be open-minded to maybe they didn't know everything they needed to know. And I like to phrase things in a way versus telling them like, you're wrong, you're an idiot, like, you have no idea what you're talking about, because they're not going to be open to that. It's more, let me kind of lead them up to water, and now they can see maybe I didn't know as much as I did, and I had these presumptions and assumptions of this situation, and actually there's a lot more to it.
Yeah.
Because life is not black and white, like, right? Like, life is not black and white at all. But like, I think same too, like, somebody, like you said, that are trying to get out of it, we're also kind of setting up for failure, because these other substances they think are safe that are in these vape store that potentially could put them back in a different situation. But like with the youth, they now have access to the highest concentrated alcohol. So one drink can now have up to 5.5 servings in one can. These Alka Pops.
Yeah.
These Buzz Balls, they're 14 to 16% versus a beer's 5%. So they're now exposed to the most concentrated alcohol, the most concentrated nicotine, and the most concentrated THC. So we are really setting them up for failure, but that's all decisions that adults are making. For people that are trying to go into recovery and think, well, you know what, I'm just going to have one drink. Well, your one drink actually had 5.5 servings, right? Like, so even though you maybe think you're trying to make a better decision because of how we're making things.
Right. People just aren't well informed.
No. And even people that kind of understand when I put it in a different context, like, they knew the percentage, but then when I compare it to number of shots, they're like, how is that? Exactly. Yeah. Because the industry is making money off of you and me, and they don't care. Right. Like, they are becoming super wealthy and super rich. And so they're continuing to push, the envelope. And one of the things they're really trying to push for is putting THC in alcohol.
That's a trip.
Yeah. And so it's just, again, it's like, when is public safety, when is that going to trump making a dollar, making a profit?
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted to move into this realm, that I can have those conversations, that I can educate the community. Because I'm talking to healthcare providers and law enforcement, and they don't know these things.
No.
Right. And so it's not no longer how many drinks you had, is what did you drink?
And it's really hard to grasp the fact that they don't know these things with as many encounters with these things as they, to me, is ignorance an excuse?
Well, I think I think people assume,
because they've got to know to some degree.
I think people assume that this shouldn't be happening, so it's not happening.
Okay.
Right? Like, I think you're probably the opposite, but a lot of people I think have more trust in like the government and regulations and safety than they really should.
Oh no, I agree. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just like, how is this happening? How did this happen? And it's just people allowing them to go on track. Like they have so much money with lobbyists and so much, with market. Like they have so much money and they're making so much money. I have this little nonprofit over here that I really am at a point I need more employees because the work that needs to be done, but I don't have an income coming in that's $1 billion industry, right?
Well, check it out. When you figure that out, you can give me a job. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly.
But hey, we're about out of time,
Yeah.
right? So I want to give you a quick minute to put your information on Andrea's project. If there's anything you want to touch on what you're doing specifically with Andrea's project to let the world know about that, I want to give you about 5 minutes or so to throw that out
I
there.
probably won't need 5.
And then we'll wrap this up and probably have you on for another show sometime in the future because you know a lot, man. You're like a resource center in itself.
Yeah. So, that's for a lot of people that are in this game. They're like, where did you come from? So go follow us on social media, Andrea's Project. We're on Instagram and Facebook, trying to expand. Follow us or go check out our website, www.andreasprojecttx.org. There's ways that you can get involved there if you just want to get more information, if you want to sign up for our newsletter, if you want to join our coalition. We do have a virtual component. Our next meeting is actually going to be next Wednesday from 1 to 3, but we also said, like I said, in person and virtual. But I think it takes a community with different people from that community to save the community. We all need our different backgrounds and perspectives to come together to come up with a plan. There's things I'm good at, but man, like technology and I'm not. So I know I got to have different people at the table. And I think the more that we work together and just being open-minded and listening, that's where the change happens. Like using the knowledge I have and using somebody who's out there, lived it with over a decade, us coming together, we're going to come up with a better plan than these people that are, just bigwigs at the table. And so I just have that perspective and just, be open-minded. Even if you do drink alcohol or use substances, people make bad choices. They're not a bad person. Even if you get behind the wheel, but please, 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 if you know you're going to go out, make a plan while you're sober before you use, before you drink. Uber, Lyft, get a ride. There's no reason to get behind the wheel, especially if you have your babies in the car. And so I just think we got to hold each other accountable. And if you see somebody who shouldn't be behind the wheel, be a hero and say something.
Yeah.
Do something about it. But if this is something you think that we're interested in what I'm doing, if you want to support the cause, we are always looking for people to help support the cause. Continuing on Andrea's legacy, letting her death be a catalyst for change. No parent should ever have to bury their own child. And so that is a goal of ours, is we want to not have any family have to go through what the Elizalde and all the other families that go through, what they go through on a daily basis, because it is something that's going to impact them the rest of their life. But thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Learned some things I didn't know.
I told you I like to talk.
Yeah,
but,
no, it's all good. That's kind of what we provide this space for, man, is to collaborate with other life-saving organizations in the community, and be able to help you extend your reach, hopefully, and bring you some support and, let you educate the world a little bit. I know I got some education today. But if you ever want to support the Better Days Reign mission, best way to do that is to log on to our YouTube channel and just hit that subscribe button. That allows us to be able to extend our reach. We are worldwide now, so we're trying to reach anybody and everybody who's struggling with addiction. And even if you're not ready for recovery, thinking about recovery, we want to be that outlet for you to start, again, getting that education, maybe plant that healthy seed in people. So whether you're struggling with it, you have a family member who struggles with it, please like, share, comment. The more we share, again, that extends our reach over a wide range of, all over the place. You can also visit our Printify store. We sell T-shirts, hoodies, hats, coffee cups, bumper stickers. We got a bunch of stuff up there with the holidays coming around. I think we're about to have the hoodies back up. We took the hoodies down for the summer, but so we'll get the hoodies back up. And again, we're on just about every major platform you can think of: YouTube, Spotify, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. Gosh, there's tons. Mike's got me on a bunch of stuff. I don't even know what Mike's. We do what Mike wants to do, and Mike's got me on a lot of stuff. Big shout out to Warrior Garden Studios. We really appreciate them letting us come in here and shoot our show. And man, it's the guys behind the scenes that make this thing work. So we're very appreciative for them to give us their time and space to do so. And if you ever want to interested in finding a recovery coach, I have a website. It's at betterdaysrain.com. You can reach me personally at Shawn@betterdaysrain.com. We provide one-on-one coaching. I can also facilitate group coaching. We did that for about 7 months at Cinecore. That was really a lot of fun. I enjoyed working with the guys up there. But I like doing the groups with the guys. It gets the relationships that you get built in those groups are really powerful. Other than that, man, y'all just have a safe holiday. Happy Thanksgiving, and